Okay, well, I'll just introduce myself really quick. My name's Carson Young, the new LMS administrator for Pembroke. I haven't been here too terribly long, and I live near Salt Lake City, Utah, and happy to be here. So we're just over the next few months or so going to kind of go back to basics as far as Canvas is concerned, and create some good content for you all to use should the need arise. So today what we're going to be discussing is new quizzes versus classic quizzes. So Canvas has had a quizzing feature for a long time. It has now been called classic quizzes since they've rolled out new quizzes. And you may or may not have used them, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at them and kind of compare the two. And the reason we're doing this is because classic quizzes will expire eventually. They're going to sunset classic quizzes July of 2024. And you'll no longer be able to create classic quizzes. Now that was actually supposed to be the beginning of this year that happened. And then they pushed it to the summer of this year. And then now they've pushed it to summer of 2024. Just working through some things. I think it was based on some feedback they received. So they pushed it out a bit longer. All right, perfect. So what we're going to look at a new quiz. We'll look at a couple of the new questions that are available with the new quizzes. And we're going to take a look at new quizzes and how to migrate classic quizzes to new quizzes, which is pretty simple to do. So you don't have to recreate these quizzes, which is very nice. We'll then also take a look at some quiz navigation and how the kind of the look and the feel and how it works. And the settings and how you moderate new quizzes and so on and so forth. And then we'll kind of go from there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen at this point. Okay, so here we go. All right, so just in my test course here, and I've created some quizzes for us to take a look at. So right here I have 4 quizzes, and I just wanted to take a minute to for orientation as far as what are we looking at and what does it mean. So you can see here that you have 2 quizzes that are published and 2 that are not published. You can see the 2 published quizzes here, 2 that are not published. I've also labeled them just for ease of viewability. But we can also see that we have 2 new quizzes. The new quizzes are the filled in rocket ship icon. Yeah, so here and here. These hollow or outlined rocket ships are the classic quiz icons. So that's how you can tell them apart. So whether they're filled in, whether they're outlined, as far as that goes. Okay, so that's kind of how you tell those apart when you're looking at them, whether or not it's a new quiz or a classic quiz. Let's see here. I'm going to jump into, let's see here. Let me go to home for just a moment. I'm going to jump into student view. Okay. So what we're looking at here is we're going to look at this new quiz. You still see the date of when it's due. You still see the point value as you would normally, but it's going to look a little bit different. So when the new quiz populates, and another difference between new quizzes and classic quizzes is new quizzes is actually an external tool, which is different than classic quizzes. So technology-wise, they are a different animal completely. If there's a time limit, the time limit's going to show. Again, it's going to show the due date, and then they'll select begin. A little bit of a different look than you would see with a classic quiz. All right, and usually it takes just a moment to load, but it has a very nice look to it. Again, you have your time up top, time remaining, and you can submit the test, or you can return back to the course itself. And then they would see their questions running down the left side. There also is a little area here where they can quickly jump to a specific question. In the classic quizzes, it was that list was actually over on the right side, and so that's where they would locate that. And then they would just go through, complete the quiz, and then they could go ahead and submit that quiz. And so that's kind of what that looks like. Now there are a couple quizzes or quiz question types that are new. There's a hotspot questions, stimulus questions, also some ordering and categorization style questions. And we'll take a look at those. But all of the classic quiz question types, will still be available. So you still have your classic matching as far as that goes. And you can even add in distractor questions. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. And things of that nature. So let's take a look at, so that's kind of the student perspective and what they see. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump out of that. That's kind of what it looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to go back home for a moment. Perfect. Now I'm going to go to this new, well, let's talk about migration for just a moment, because I did mention that before. And that is, if you have classic quizzes and they need to be moved over or migrated, then you can definitely do that. So I'm just going to go to my quiz area here, where I have all of the quizzes. There we go. And after you select quizzes on the left, and this is a crucial step because this has to happen in the quiz area. It can't happen in the modules area. You just select quizzes, and then you would go to your classic quiz, select the kebab or the ellipses here, and then you would select migrate. And what that'll do is that will automatically not only copy the quiz, but migrate the quiz to the new quiz format. And it takes just a moment. The nice thing too is all the questions will come over with it, so you don't have to worry about rebuilding the quiz. We can see this, it was worth 1 point. It's still worth 1 point. The same questions will be there, but now it's in new quiz format. So it's as easy as that to migrate your classic quizzes to new quizzes. I did want to make another point, and that is, once classic quizzes do become obsolete, it's not it isn't completely obsolete. And what I mean by that is, it's not that the classic quizzes will all of a sudden disappear. They'll still remain. You just won't be able to create new ones. You won't have the option. So if there are some classic quizzes and you still want to keep them in classic quiz form for whatever reason, you can. You definitely can keep those. And you can create, offshoots of new quizzes, as far as using those, you can go ahead and do that. But again, the existing classic quizzes will not disappear. You just won't be prompted to create new classic quizzes once that deadline passes. All right, and I think I saw a chat pop up. Let me just take a look at that really quick. Okay, external tools don't work as well if you're primarily using the app. That's definitely true in my experience. External tools sometimes are a little bit glitchy when it comes to using the Canvas mobile app. The Canvas mobile app isn't perfect, that's for sure. It has its share of issues. But sometimes when you are using external tools, they don't work. They don't work great when trying to access those, and a lot of people find themselves having to uninstall and reinstall the app, and then many times that pushes them through. But that's definitely true. As far as I understand, on their roadmap to perfect new quizzes, that is one item that they're looking at making better. Thanks for that comment. All right, so that's kind of the lowdown of classic quizzes versus new quizzes, and when you'll be able to, the point that you'll be able to continue creating classic quizzes. So again, that's July 2024. All right. Now again, it doesn't take away those that still exist. Those that still exist, you can still use them, but they will no longer be supported by Instructure's support team, and they will no longer receive any updates. So you may or may not be aware, there's only one version of Canvas, and it's Canvas. There's not a 1.0, 2.0, so on and so forth. Every 3 weeks, they run updates in that Canvas instance, or that Canvas version. And that's where the bug fixes take place. That's when they roll out new items, and functionality is typically that weekend of the 3rd week. And so that's a continual rolling cycle. And as that cycle continues, classic quizzes will be annexed out of that update, so they'll no longer be updated, they'll no longer be supported, but the existing classic quizzes, they will still be usable. You will still be able to use them. All right, perfect. Okay, so let's look at new quiz navigation as it pertains to a faculty member. So let's look at this new quiz that we have published. So when you go in, you're going to see a stripped down version of what you're used to seeing with the classic quiz. So here you can still set your point value, your assignment group if it needs to go into a specific weighted assignment group, and then of course grade options here. You can see by default it is an external tool URL, and then here's of course where you can also add any of your extensions for your students, available due and until dates. All that's intact, that's still the same, but what you notice here is probably you can't set a time limit here, shuffle your questions, that type. All of those options have been moved to a different menu, and I'll show you that in just a moment. This is just very high level settings now. Now it takes a little while to get used to, but when you look at this, it's kind of confusing at first. But where you want to go next is to click the build button, and this will then take you to where you can start creating your actual quiz. Now I did fail to mention one thing before I hit build, and that is attaching the rubric. You would attach over here on the left hand side before you hit build. So just wanted to mention that quickly. All right, so after you select build, you have several several options you can choose from here. You have your actual build area, you have settings, reports, and moderate, and then you have return. Now this is another kind of quirky navigation idea, and that is this return button. When you scroll to the bottom, as you can see, there is no save quiz. There's nothing there, which was there for the classic quiz. Now they have this return button, so when you click on that, that actually will take you back to your modules page. So it's very different. So just be aware of it. Once you get used to it, the build and the return, you'll be fine. Okay, just going to take a look at settings really quick. Again, here's where you'll select shuffle questions, shuffle answers. This is also where you can set if you want them to answer one question at a time and allow or not allow backtracking. If there is an access code that needs to be input, here's where that would occur. Time limit, of course. And then if there are any IP addresses you need to filter, if you want to allow a calculator, this is a nice addition. You can use or allow either a basic or scientific calculator. Multiple attempt options right here as well. And then restrict student view results. Again, if you remember all these tick boxes were in the initial settings page of classic quizzes that they felt they wanted to just have high level settings there and move all of these detailed settings to a different menu. So that is the in quiz settings. All right, next let's take a look at reports. Now, if you remember with classic quizzes, I'll go ahead and duplicate this real quick and return. And we'll take a look at a classic quiz. So again, here's a classic quiz settings area. Let's see, actually, no, that's not. I selected a wrong item. Let's see, let's go here. Okay, here we go. So we need to go into edit. And right, you had your details and then you had your questions, right? That's the classic view. And then you had all these options here, shuffling, time limit, so on and so forth. And that's kind of what that looked like. Okay. What it also had is before you went into the edit area, you had your moderation. You could jump to SpeedGrader and also look at your quiz statistics. So your quiz statistics, you could then export data for quiz statistics as far as your student analysis, your item analysis, see how questions were faring. That now is in this reports area. There's your quiz and item analysis, and there's your outcomes analysis. And so that's where that would take place. Moderation is next right here. Again, if we look back at classic quizzes and go back a page, moderation was actually on the right side as well under related items. So with this particular setup, you have moderation, you have its own tab here. What's kind of nice with this is when you go into moderate, here's where you can set additional attempts for individual users. Here's also where you can allow more time. So if you want to give them any type of time adjustments, you can. If you want to remove the time limit completely for that individual, you can as well. And then you can also increase hours or minutes for that individual as well. Perfect. Now, if the quiz needed to be reopened, I can reopen the quiz. And we can see here that this has already been attempted. We can see how long it took, what the score was, so on and so forth. But as we make these changes, they in real time will change. As you can see, there's no save. So as you type them in, they automatically will save for that individual user. So we can see now we have an increased time of 1 hour 4 minutes for this individual user, not the whole class. And we can also see that we've got attempt 1 for that individual has been complete. So if they go back in, they'll still be able to reattempt up to 3 times total. All right. All right. Any questions on any of the settings? Just going to take a look at chat here really quick. Okay, sorry, I missed the last chat asking about classic quizzes. Will they be usable after July 2024? And we did discuss that. All right, so what about SpeedGrader? As far as SpeedGrader goes, and what they've done is they've added a lot of automation to the new quizzes. so that everything does input directly over to SpeedGrader. You no longer have to jump over there. In fact, when you create quiz questions now in new quizzes, some quiz question types that automatically graded or that did not automatically graded do automatically grade now. And I can share some more documentation with you on specific question types. There are several of them. And I have put together some resources that I'll share with the group on that. But that's kind of, those are all of your major settings within these quizzes themselves. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let's go to build. All right, now let's talk about item banks for just a moment. What's nice, again, as you convert Classic to new quizzes, again, the quiz questions stick with it, and they'll be put into an item bank, and they'll look just like this. So if you have item banks, it will pick up item banks, and you can simply select an item bank to assign to this particular quiz if you know the item bank that you're looking for that does pertain. And it's as simple as just selecting the item bank. It takes just a moment for it to load. And there we go. There's item bank 1001 exam. You can also go in and modify these as well to remove questions. And then you can also author your own questions, of course. But this is everything that would have been added. But again, still editable. And of course, you can still copy and or move these particular items. So that's adding item banks. Now, as far as creating questions, it looks a little bit different. Before, you had the little tag up top that said questions right within the settings, and then you would go and create your questions there. This is a little bit different, where you'll just click on this blue add content area to do something like that. So for example, we can click on that. These are all of the question types available. Again, I'm going to be sending out some more information to you, but hotspot, that's a new question type. Let's see here. So is the stimulus, that's a new question type. We'll take a look at those. But you can just go in and select and add whatever you'd like to. So for example, a hotspot is pretty cool. What you do with these particular questions is you add all of your content. So if there's a question title, and let's say it's heart, I'll just reuse this example. And then you have a question stem, for example. So locate the IVC, right, inferior vena cava, for example. And then what we can do is just click on this to grab an image or picture that's on our computer. So I'd grab the heart and bring that in. Now what we do on this particular question is we can draw a hotspot or locate a hotspot that the student will need to click on in order to answer the question correctly. So there are a few different ways you can do this. You have a square, oval, or a polygon. So the square, what did I say? IVC, inferior vena cava. I believe that's this over here. So if I wanted to just use the box, I could use the box. Now that is now hot spotted for this question. And what the individual or the student would do is read the instructions and click on that area. And that is auto-graded. So faculty wouldn't have to go through and make sure that everything is correct, that they're clicking on it. It'll be automatically graded, which is really nice. Now, if I needed to use the oval, I could use the oval. Oh, that didn't change over. There we go. If I needed to use the oval, I could. If I want to use the polygon, this is for irregular shapes. So, for example, if I was wanting to, let's see here. I'm trying to find something really regular. Well, I'll just show you how it works. You can click on one area or of the shape, and you just keep clicking around it until you've covered that shape, and then just track off of the image, and then it will all snap together, and then that's how you create a odd shape that the square or the oval may not take care of. And so once you actually select that, again, you just click done. That will save it. That is now the hotspot that individual needs to select. So really, it's all in wording as far as the question stem is concerned. All right, so that is a hotspot question. Well, you'll have to you'll have to excuse me. I was just getting over a sickness from last week, and throat's still a little bit weird, so just give me one moment. All right. Okay, so that's like an example of a hotspot. I wanted to show you a stimulus question as well. All right. All right, Polygon hotspot. Okay. All right, so again on this one, this is again adding a stimulus, and I have an example of one as well. But what's really cool about this is, again, you have your title of what it is, and you can add a title or not. Again, I'm just going to name it heart. Instructions would be, read the following and answer. All right, so in this content area, this is where you could put some text. For example, if this was an English class, maybe you're going over poetry, you can put the whole poem in here, which is really nice. So just kind of imagine it. So poem here. You can even add images if you wanted. So again, I can go and I can drag and drop media in. Again, I'm just going to go with the heart because it's there, even though it doesn't really deal with, well, plenty of hearts are in poems, I suppose. All right, there we go there. Then we have an option here to either ask questions to the right of the information or the questions below. So you can select that. You can also put a source URL. So if you need them to jump to a web page for whatever reason and review something, they can do that and hop back if you choose to do that. All right, now what I can do is I can add the stimulus. So I'm going to click on that. And then once we add a stimulus, we can attach questions to the stimulus. So for example, now I can choose whatever kind of, whatever question type I want to use. So let's see, I'm going to go for a true false. And true false is, let's do, we could say, there are 4 chambers in the heart. I'll have to excuse the wonderful spelling here. And we'll go, true on that one. Okay, done. And when this one's done, I can now attach another question. And I could make this matching or multiple choice or another hotspot, whatever question type I want it to be. All of those questions will line up to the right or below, depending on what you choose. They'll line up above or below the image in the content on the left. And then it will have its own scrolling area where they can just scroll through those questions about that piece of information. So that's called a stimulus question type. And those are your 2 big major new question types. And all the rest, of course, still exists from classic quizzes. So what I'll do is I will gather some more information as far as the instructor guides or Canvas guides are concerned for faculty, and send that out to the group. What that'll do is that'll just give you precise information from Canvas of how to structure and create each of these new question types, as well as how to navigate through new quizzes as well. So kind of get familiar with new quizzes. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any additional questions or even meet with you about it. But definitely get used to them and comfortable with them as classic quizzes will no longer be able to be created. And any questions that I can answer at the moment?
Hey, Carson, you got a couple in the chat section.
Okay, let me take a look at chat here.
Right. Mm-hmm.
See here. Okay, does it look basically the same for students in browser versus app? Okay, this was the external tool question. I didn't catch that first look. It's going to look a little bit different, but it's very similar. So it's familiar, is how I can answer that. It's familiar, but it doesn't look exactly the same. But absolutely familiar. As far as the second question, and again, we had covered this one, classic quizzes. You won't be able to create them you won't be able to create them after July 2024. And then as far as what about SpeedGrader? Again, when you go to, let's actually get out of here. All right, let's see. All these are, because it is an LTI, all grades will automatically go over. But if we look at the gradebook, for example, and we see new published, this is one that we were looking at. We can see the results of the exam there. Now it doesn't have the SpeedGrader over on the right hand side when we were discussing moderation and things of that nature. So you would want to get to SpeedGrader, or rather the gradebook, and then look at the actual cell that the quiz is in, and then access SpeedGrader that way. You could do that. You could also use the grading tray. So just select the cell, click on this little box with the arrow, and then you could jump into SpeedGrader that way as well. But in the new quiz itself, there is not a SpeedGrader link, at least not that I'm aware of, and I'll double check that for you. But that's a great question. All right. Any additional questions? Okay. Well, I'll stop sharing. Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for attending. Again, we went over new quizzes versus classic quizzes. We went over how to migrate those the quizzes, when the classic quizzes will expire, and then functionality and navigation throughout the quiz and setting them up, looking at some of the different question types. And again, I will follow up with additional information to support the conversation. And again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help any way I can. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, one more question over there from Miss Amy. Can we adjust individual question points going to SpeedGrader through grades?
Okay, can we adjust individual question points going to SpeedGrader through grades? Okay, so Let me see if I understand exactly what you're saying. So within, so Amy, are you saying that within the, let me share again. Are you asking me about within the gradebook itself? Let's see. Anywhere really. Okay. All right. So as far as in the grade book, absolutely. You absolutely can. So what we'll do is let's jump back over to the grade book and take a look at, let's see, let's take a look at new quiz published. Well, first of all, if you need to manually do it, you definitely can. You can still select or go into the cell and, manually overwrite anything. So that still exists. As far as looking at the quiz and jumping over to speed grader, you can jump that way. Within speed grader itself, let's see, let me move my head there. Okay, so as far as the assessment grade is concerned, it looks like that is grayed out. You can do late missing excused here, but let's see here, I'm not seeing any other location to be able to modify the score itself within the quiz. Now you can go in and add fudge points, for example, where if you need to add a point because there's a bad question or something, you can definitely do that. So between the fudge points and just a manual override in the gradebook, those are going to be your two go-tos that will override the automatic grade that passes through. And so that's kind of how that would work. And again, you would just run through individuals and that have taken it anyway, and you could do it that way. All right. That's a great question. Yeah, thanks for that one. Let's see here. Any additional questions?